Hello there, grade 4s, and welcome. Are you ready to get totally prepared for your exam? Today we're going to have a blast with a quiz all about one of my favorite things to look at in the night sky, the incredible moon. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We've got 3 parts. First, we'll talk about moon characteristics. Then we'll dive into the phases of the moon, and we'll finish up with some really cool moon stories. So here's how this is going to work. It's super simple. I'll ask a question, and then I want you to hit pause so you have a moment to think of the answer. When you're ready, just press play, and I'll show you the correct answer. It's the best way to test what you know. You ready? Let's do this.
All right, kicking things off with part 1, moon characteristics. This is all about the sciencey stuff. What the moon is, what it does, and how it affects us here on planet Earth.
Okay, first 2 questions are on the screen. So what exactly is the moon, and how does it move around up there? And for question 2, how does it get so bright at night? Go ahead, hit pause, and give it some thought. So how'd you do? The moon is Earth's one and only natural satellite. That's just a fancy way of saying it's a natural object that goes around and around, or orbits our Earth. And get this, it doesn't make its own light at all. It's like a giant dusty mirror in space, just reflecting the light from the sun. Pretty cool, huh?
Let's keep the ball rolling. Next up, why is the moon's gravity such a big deal for us on Earth? And imagine you wanted to live on the moon. Why couldn't you? Give me 2 good reasons. Go on, time to pause and think.
And we're back. The moon's gravity is actually super important because it pulls on our oceans, which is what creates the tides, making the sea level go up and down. And as for living there? Nope, not without special gear. There's no air to breathe, no water to drink, and no proper soil to grow anything. You definitely need a very cool spacesuit. Okay, let's talk about what the moon looks like. You know all those big holes and dents on its surface? What are they called, and how do they get there? And here's a tricky one. Why do they never seem to change? Hit pause and see what you can remember. If you said craters, you are absolutely right. They're called craters, and they were made a very, very long time ago when huge space rocks, called meteorites, smashed into the moon. The reason they don't change is because the moon has no weather, no wind, no rain, nothing to wear them down like mountains and rocks do here on Earth. All right, last 2 questions for this part. Which one is closer to us, the moon or the sun? And think about this. If the sun is so much bigger, why does the moon sometimes look like it's the same size in the sky? Okay, final pause for part 1. Let's see what you've got.
And the answer is the moon. It is way, way, way closer to the Earth than the sun is. And that's exactly why it can look so big. It's all about perspective. Even though the sun is gigantic, it's so far away that our close-up moon can look just as big in our sky. Awesome job on that section.
Now that we've got the basics down, let's move on to part 2, the phases of the moon. This is all about why the moon seems to change its shape every night. All right, first question for this section. What even are the phases of the moon? And what's that special name we have for when we look up and see a big, bright, perfectly round moon? You know the drill. Hit that pause button. Great work. So the phases are just the different parts of the moon we see lit up by the sun as it moves around the Earth. The moon itself isn't actually changing shape. It's just the sunlight. And when we see the whole thing lit up, we call it a beautiful full moon. Okay, next up. So if a full moon is when it's all lit up, what's going on during a new moon? And what do we call it when the moon looks like a perfect half circle in the sky? Time to pause and lock in those answers. So during a new moon, the side of the moon that's facing us isn't getting any sunlight at all, so it kind of looks like it's disappeared. And when we see exactly half of it lit up, we call that a quarter moon. Why? Well, it's because the moon has traveled 1/4 of the way in its trip around the Earth. See? Makes perfect sense. Last question for this part. So from one full moon all the way through the cycle to the next full moon, how long does that whole pattern take? This is a number you'll probably want to remember. Pause one last time for this section. And the magic number is 29.5 days. It takes about a month for the moon to go through all of its phases and start all over again. Excellent work. And now for our final section, which is a really fun one. We've done the science. Now let's get into some culture. For thousands of years, people all over the world have told incredible stories about the moon. Let's look at a few. Here are our first 2 story questions. In the traditional sand story, what did the sun do to the moon?
And when the Tswana people looked up at the shadows and shapes on the moon, what picture did they think they could see? Go ahead and pause to remember these cool tales. Aren't these stories just the best? So in the sun story, the sun gets angry and uses its sharp rays to cut pieces off the moon. That's how they explain the phases. And the Tswana people saw a shape in the shadows that looked like a woman carrying a baby on her back. And here we are, our very last questions of the quiz. In an old Ixosa story, where do brand new moons come from? And finally, why did some people think it was bad luck if the crescent moon looked like a bowl that was tipped over? This is it, your final pause.
Let's wrap this up with our final answers. The Ixosa story has this amazing idea that new moons wait in a big hole deep in the sea and then they slowly rise up into the sky. And for the crescent moon, some people believed it was like a bowl, and if it tipped down, all sorts of sicknesses could fall out and spread on Earth. What an incredible imagination. And you did it. You made it through every single question. That is fantastic. You've covered the science, the phases, and the stories. You should feel really proud and super confident. Keep up this amazing work, and you are going to do great on your exam. Well done, everybody.